Hello everybody, Dokkan Assets here. Today we are back with another animation analysis video, one that I am absolutely ecstatic for. If you are aware of my presence on Dokkan, the internet, I was gonna say YouTube, but I guess it's more encompassing to everything. I love Super Saiyan 3, okay? I love Super Saiyan 3. It's been my favorite form for the longest time. I think it is like, still every day I fight in my head whether I like it better than Beast or if I like Beast better. But either way, I'm a huge Super Saiyan 3 fan, so I am absolutely ecstatic to do this video. Now, before we get into things, obviously we're doing Goku's first. Unfortunately, we don't have a comparison for Boo later, but we do have one for Goku. However, it's unfortunately not uploaded on YouTube yet. The boy Giad has only posted the video on Twitter, but we will still use this comparison, and the boy iKevinX, who we also obviously use for the comparison videos. He is taking a while because he wants to cook, and he was saying that he has stamina issues himself. So unfortunately, that means also not for Boo, but we do have a video for Goku to compare, thankfully, in this little gem that's over here in the corner, the final tab on the right. You'll see what that is later. By the way, don't forget, if you would like to, I do have a current project running on the channel right now that is live all the time, a 24/7 Dokkan OST radio, where every OST in the game is playing all the time for your entertainment, your enjoyment. So definitely go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description. So let's go ahead and look at Goku's animations as well. The other thing that we're going to do is, because the Gotenks and Boo, right, the sidebanner units, were basically thrown over into their own video, we're going to take a look at Gotenks' essay in this video, and we'll take a look at Boo's essay in Boo's video. So, before anything though, let's go ahead and watch the animations one time through at full-time speed. And as per usual, always keep in mind, right, I always like to give a little disclaimer, I am by no means an animator or an animation professional. I just do this for fun, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what makes a good Dokkan animation from looking at the funny PNGs and obviously doing these videos for so long. Now, I will say, overall thoughts, because I always kind of like to give you what I'm feeling right at the beginning, so then as we go through the video to see if it will change. I actually really like these. I'm not gonna lie. And this is definitely not, I promise you, it's not my bias for Super Saiyan 3, because there have been plenty of times, like STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku, where I love Super Saiyan 3, right? And, so if it was bad, I would be sad. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I think they did an absolutely fantastic job on these animations. I do think there are definitely a couple things as we go through this video that I do want to point out, that are some things that I kind of are a little bit like, on. And I think the obvious thing before we even get into everything, and we'll do Gotenks real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of my boy, but I do think that the most obvious thing, right, and kind of just the thing to get out of the way, is the fact that the intro animation is so short, right? They cut out a lot of what happens in the scene, unfortunately, right? And it is literally just, bam, there he is, right? Super Saiyan 3, bam, stands up. I understand for this type of thing, right? It's kind of a hard one, because it's like, on one hand, I know that they can't just like have the entire scene of him transforming into Super Saiyan 3 in here, right? Because not only would it be a lot of budget to put into the animation, right, for this, like, TUR Dokkan Fest. Granted, it is a dual Dokkan Fest, so it is a little bit higher on the tier list in terms of, like, just characters, I guess, that in terms of releases, I should say, right? But the other thing is, obviously, that would be really long. If they decided to make the full, like, transformation, or even just, like, most of it, right? Because I don't think they do the full thing. It would be the longest intro in the game. Now, personally, I know for me, I really don't care if that would be the case. In fact, I would welcome that. And the other thing is, too, about the intros, right? Obviously, you're only either seeing them once per game. I guess, to be fair, it kind of depends on what mode you're playing, right? Like, if you're doing, like, Boss Rush, then obviously you're going to see it every fight. But to be fair, I know for me, personally, I always have on the setting where it's, like, play animations once per day before like the intros and the active skills and stuff, and then it skips it. So it wouldn't be as bad if that was how you had it set up, but I could definitely understand, obviously, you know, with how long that entire scene is, you know, even if they did more of it in here, obviously the intro would then be really, really long. Not to mention the intro OSTs are usually only around like 30 seconds, you know, until they do the loop. So very, very interesting though. Just something that I wanted to point out because I know that everybody has been kind of talking about that. I do still think, all things considered, they could have made it at least a little bit longer, right? I think that if anything, even though obviously I do like what we have, and I do think that, you know, obviously the full scene might have been a little bit too much, I still think that they could have added more things, right? There's still a couple more scenes that they could have added. And interestingly enough, we'll talk about it when we get there, but in the active skill, they actually take a scene from him transforming, right? But he's already Super Saiyan 3 in the Dokkan version with the clouds, you know, like seeping into him. Obviously, that's a scene from the anime. All right, so before we get into Goku's meat and potatoes, hello, Boo. Thank you for the cameo. Let's go ahead and look at Gotenks' animations real quick, because this is obviously the side banner unit for Goku. We're not going to spend too much time on him, but I just wanted to include my thoughts on him somewhere in a video, right? And I'm not going to make a solo video on him and Boo. I think that his animations are pretty good overall, right? I don't really think that there's anything too insane about Gotenks' movement himself, funny enough. I do think that the effects at the end is really what's really, really good about this guy, actually. And I think for a side banner unit, honestly, he's really good, right? We have this nice shot of obviously him kind of coming into the frame here a little bit closer. And I love that they have this little bit here where he basically readies up, right? The movement is super fluid of him kind of squatting down before teleporting away. And I really like this because obviously it's like him readying up before he then teleports. And hey, look at that on this little section right here. Gotenks has a lot of minimal movement on his hair and on the jacket, right? You can see it right there. He keeps it flowing, which is really, really cool. There's a lot of animations from bigger characters that don't even do that, so it's really cool to see. Then they have this nice close-up of the kick. I think that's a good way to cut right there, and obviously have the shot from behind. Is Gotenks' hair moving here? Let me see. Yeah, it is. Even his clothes. Dude, you're telling me some of these big boy Dokkan Fest animations can't get this minimal movement down? But this random side banner unit Gotenks can? That's crazy. Well, big props to this guy, then. Actually, that puts him up a lot more tiers in my book, because this is the type of thing, right, where it's like so simple, right? It's such a simple little like animation and movement, but I feel like it adds so much to these animations. It gives them so much life. It makes them feel a lot more interesting to look at rather than if this was just a PNG. Dude, even the puffs on his like Metamorph Fusion vest move. That's crazy. Alright, well, W Gotenks for sure. I like the way that they have him teleport away as well. It looks very anime-esque, which is really, really cool, right? In the way that, like, obviously it's kind of like the pieces of him disappear and then he fully fades away. Also, I love this shot where he's kind of coming in from the top ropes and flying in. I will say it does look a little bit weird, but I think that's just because of the angle they chose, and obviously it's a little weird to capture it with like this perspective, I suppose. The water on the bottom is cool, and the unfortunate thing is, I will say about this animation, is that because this is another one where Gotenks will grab the enemy character, right? Obviously this is going to look really weird with all the different sprites. Another certified stinky sprite moment right here. So, yeah, that is a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, that's not really the animation's fault. That's more, you know, the sprite's fault. But I do like the way that they cut this, right? Or at least I guess would be more like the perspective. As you can see, right, obviously they have the enemy behind Gotenks and basically off frame. So it's like you don't actually see them, even though, you know, it's implied that he's grabbing them. I think that's really cool. You have them really thrown to the ground, and a great way to, again, hide this, where they have basically like this effect of like, oh, it's the character flying by the screen, but they're so close, you can't tell what the character is. That's really cool. And then obviously they get thrown away. And I gotta say, this looks amazing, by the way. The water billowing up looks really cool, right? And obviously you have Gotenks fire the blast. I do really like the shading on him, right? Looks really, really good. This art is really cool too, I will say. I actually really like this card art. It might be my new base form Gotenks favorite card art in the game. But yeah, you have him bring his hands together, which looks really good. Obviously, the Ki Blast, the lighting, everything looks on point. Fires off into a beam, right? I love the angle on it, too, as it travels. Dude, the frames here look amazing. The explosion effect looks insane. The wind and the water drops, bro. Are you kidding me? The water drops really add to this. I think the water drops is what really makes this, like, holy cow. Because I think if it was just the wind, it wouldn't be as crazy. But the water drop animation is super, super cool. So I'm definitely a fan of that. Yeah, I think overall, this guy's animations are actually really good. I'm not going to lie. Like, just for some, you know, random side banner unit, right? I think they actually cooked with my boy. This is definitely a fantastic set of animations for Gotenks. Alright, let's talk about the big kahuna himself now, Goku. By the way, as we go through Goku's animations, I will then show you like the comparison to the anime. So we'll kind of go through it piece by piece here. So I know a lot of people are also going to mention, and I should probably bring it up, right? The fact that with this scene, right, I'll play this little video because it's kind of in my head right at the moment. I found this comparison from a Japanese user on Dokkan Twitter, right? Oh, they actually follow me. That's cool. Where they are basically comparing, like, the, you know, OG. Funny enough, where Waveku comes from, actually. The original 2019 INT Super Saiyan 3 Goku. And it's interesting to see the difference between these two, right? Because I don't know, I kind of feel like in the 2019 one, they almost focus on Super Saiyan 3 Goku a little bit more, because obviously what they're trying to do is like the whole thing of like the you know, with like the Great Ape in that section, obviously Goku like transformed into a baby and everything like that, right? But it is interesting to see in the 2019 version, it does kind of feel like that they almost like focus a little bit more on the Super Saiyan 3 aspect of it. Funny enough, this shot is almost like virtually the same. Obviously, you can tell that it's updated a little bit, and the way that the camera angles are and the zooms and everything are, of course, different. It is a bit of a shame that they didn't include this shot. Funny enough, that one right there on the right is actually where the Waveku, my, you know, profile picture on Twitter and on YouTube, that's where that actually comes from, is the asset just without the hair right there. But it's kind of a shame that they didn't include that one, right? I do like that they did the little eye zoom thing. I think that the scene with the Great Ape is really cool. Like, I always thought that that was pretty, you know, pretty sick whenever I saw it in the scene of Goku transforming. But honestly, I feel like they totally could have just done some of these other, like, shots of him getting longer hair into Super Saiyan 3, because as cool as the Great Ape is, I don't really feel like it fits as well for this intro. Like, I understand that obviously it's a part of the animation, so of course, you know, it makes sense that it's in there, right? And obviously it's supposed to be like he's struggling and his Saiyan roots are coming to fruition, right? And his Saiyan power is exploding and everything like that. But I feel like for a Super Saiyan 3 unit, right, I never really, like, the Great Ape is never the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of that Super Saiyan 3 transformation. It's always the parts with Super Saiyan 3. So it feels a little bit off that of all things is what they decided to include, like, from all the things they could have taken from the actual transformation, right? But I think that that end shot is much better. Obviously, the shot at the end, and again, we'll talk about it. It's definitely more, you know, akin to the anime for sure. And then I was going to say, yeah, funny enough, the obviously this part was not in the original one, but the super attack animation, right? I don't even think I have to tell you that the new one is better. Obviously, I'm showing it to you here, but I don't think I have to tell you that the new one looks a lot better, right? I think they definitely improved. It is interesting to see. I think there are some things about the old one that I do really like, even maybe a little bit more than the new one, just from like stylistic standpoint. But I think from in the terms of actual like animation, right? Obviously, I think that the new one is you know, much better. I like the shading a lot on the old one, actually, for like how Goku looks in the shot from the back. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out because I know some people were talking about it, right? Yeah, definitely was cool to see this little comparison included here. Hello, channel. Yeah, right there, that Goku asset, right? That's literally from that scene right there from the 2019 one. Anyway, so obviously this animation of Goku's hair flowing looks pretty good, right? Back and forth. You have a really cool zoom up, obviously, again, right from the anime, where of course it zooms right into Goku's eye. I will say, this shot is really cool, by the way. There's a lot of things in here that go super fast that I wanted to like pause on and show you. This close-up of Goku's face is actually drawn so well. Like, this is genuinely one of the best, like, close-ups of Goku's face I think I've ever seen in, like, my history of looking at Dokkan animations. It just looks so good, right? And it's on the screen for, like, less than a second, basically, because obviously they zoom into Goku's eye. Now, I will say, I do kind of wish that if they were going to do this and do this whole zoom thing, they maybe had like a separate asset for Goku's eye or something like that. Because obviously, since they're zooming in on this, you then see the lineage, right? The little bit of crunch around Goku's eye. It's not on screen for too long, right? And obviously they fade it. But I feel like that this section specifically with the eye would have looked a lot better if they had some way to make the eye more HD. Because everything up until this point, it's like, wow, look at the quality of this. It's so good, right? And then you get to here and you start to see it a little bit, but it's not too bad. And then you get here and you're like, oh boy, look at that little bit of jagged edges, right? And the fact that they focus on it, I think, is what's the problem. The problem is not that they focus on it. I think the problem is that they focus on it and it doesn't look that good, right? In terms of, obviously, like, the quality of the lineage. Again, maybe a little bit of a nitpick, but it's something that I wanted to point out. They fade to black. And then they obviously have the, like, shattered glass scene, which looks really good. You have the Great Ape appear in front of it and roar, which, again, looks fantastic, right? No complaints from me there. And then, of course, right, you have Goku basically returning to Monkey, quite literally, with a little bit of the flashing lights. Obviously, this scene looks right out of the anime, right? I don't think there's anything that I would have to complain about there. And then, of course, you have this shot of Goku zooming out once again. I will say, the thing about this shot that is kind of funny, right? Obviously, the eye looks fine, but you can see the exact frame, obviously, that they transition from, like, the super high-quality zoom-up of the eye. Ironic that I was talking about they needed more HD asset of it, and they kind of have one right here, but obviously it's a little bit of a different angle. Yeah, yikes. You can tell the exact second that they, they transition into this little bit of a lower quality asset with the thicker lines. But, or well, I guess I shouldn't say lower quality asset because it's actually a super high quality asset. The problem is that they're zooming in on it so much that it looks like it's a low quality asset. But obviously, when it zooms out, right, you can see that actually this asset looks really good. And this shot is literally on screen for, what, 2 frames? But this looks fantastic. Also a little cursed. Because it's Super Saiyan 3 with eyebrows, but obviously it's mid-transformation, so that's why the eyebrows are still there. But yeah, this shot is really, really cool. I actually like this a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But anyhow, then we obviously transition into this Goku here, right? Where, of course, he is basically, like, bending backwards and screaming. I will say this was one that I saw that I was like, man, they really just used the static PNG for this. And not to mention, going back to that little bit of the comparison, right? I think they literally just used the same asset and just touched it up a little bit. Oh! No, actually they didn't, because the angle of the head is a little bit different. Maybe they used the same body. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that and changed the shading, but the angle of the head, his head is a little bit more far back than the original one is. So I guess that's good. Obviously, at least they touched up something, and it fits a lot more with the scene, right? But then, of course, you have that fade to yellow. And I think they static PNG was in the anime, so I can't knock them too much for that. This shot, by the way, whoo-wee, they cooked so much, dude. I want to say they just nailed this. Absolutely, like 100%. I think they did such a good job with this shot. It looks so good. Obviously, this is one of the most iconic shots from the Buu saga, right? Obviously, Goku's first Super Saiyan 3 transformation. So, to see it done justice like this is really good. I was, obviously, as much as it is kind of disappointing that it's not as long in terms of, like, all the things that are kind of at play here. I do think that it's really, really cool that at the bare minimum, they really got the important stuff animated really well, which is this section, right? So I'm glad that they did, because this looks really, really good. And it looks so much more like the anime. Again, if we go back to that little comparison, I mean, obviously they have Goku turn his head and then do it here, but this looks a lot more like a Dokkan asset on the right. Then this one on the left, obviously, with this, looks a lot more like the anime. So I think they really cooked on this shot. And the electricity, by the way, I have to mention it throughout this entire section here. Flawless. Fantastic. Looks so good. Okay, so then obviously we have the shot of the close-up of Goku, which also looks fantastic, right? Definitely no complaints from me. Funny enough, with the shading here, it does kind of look like he has a little bit of a, like, crumb on his lip, but obviously it's just because it's supposed to be the shading. But either way, though, yeah, this whole shot looks really good. I like, obviously, that they have this little bit of the zoom out, right? Obviously, then showing you the full Super Saiyan 3 hair. I will say, I need to look at this. We're going to look at it in literally a second here. But the anime versus the Dokkan comparison on this, because I swear something about his hair looks a little bit weird here. Like, maybe it's because there's so many locks up at the top, and then towards the bottom, they're, like, bigger, thicker ones, which is how Super Saiyan 3 is. But, like, I don't know, I feel like something about it, like, is a little bit off-putting to me. Maybe I'm just tripping. It is entirely possible. But I really, really like this whole shot, though. The execution of this with, obviously, the close-up of the zoom of Goku, and then, obviously, zooming back. And then, of course, you have that almost full-body shot. I think that that is really, really cool. And again, this intro, right, maybe besides the... I mean, obviously, the Great Ape is part of it, but I think this does a really good job of establishing the Super Saiyan 3, like, hey, he's here, right? Again, the electricity also looks fantastic on this. Okay, let's go ahead and watch the anime versus Dokkan comparison here. So obviously, when it comes to this, right, of course, this is this shot, the zoom in, the Great Ape, right? Again, I think Dokkan has gotten really, really good about this sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's with the, with this shot here of, like, the yellow. I think it's a little bit more, maybe it's just because, again, this is another thing with, like, the aspect ratio, where it's the type of thing where it's like, oh, well, you know, because obviously the Dokkan one is vertical, it's going to look a little bit more weird because obviously you're used to seeing it in that, like, horizontal format. So definitely could be, you know, that in terms of why it also feels a little bit more off-putting. But yeah, I mean, I'd say they did a good job, right? I think it looks pretty one-to-one to me. Maybe, like, they could have been a little bit more slow on the face, right? Because obviously I feel like the anime is a little bit more slower in the execution of it, whereas the Dokkan one is like, shiom, and they're already right there, right? So I think that's another thing maybe, is they could have taken their time with it a little bit more rather than kind of speeding to it. But again, this shot looks amazing, right? Obviously the shading is a little bit different, right? You can tell, I mean, the line work, there's a lot more lineage on the anime version. But honestly, I genuinely do think that the Dokkan one looks better. Like, if I had to say, just in terms of, like, you know, especially the face, right? Because obviously that scene is notorious for having a little bit of a funny looking face on Goku there. Right here, yeah, they cooked. They cooked. They absolutely cooked. I think that they made it look even better, if I do say so myself, while obviously still keeping the style. I don't know, maybe not better. I think honestly it's just the face is really the thing that's better. It's just a little bit different, right? It's a little bit more of a mix of that Dokkan and anime, but I think they do a very good job. Still, like, obviously keeping the spirit of the original animation alive. But yeah, the face definitely, though. The face, absolutely, they improved on, because this actually looks like Goku now. But anyway, yeah, this shot right here, obviously they did a very good job on with the zoom out. Is this another thing here where, okay, so that makes sense why I felt like the hair looks really weird. It's the fact that, again, it's another thing of the perspective, the aspect ratio, right? Where this is the type of thing where you're only seeing the, you know, basically like chest up when it comes to this animation normally in the anime. But obviously, because, right, this is Dokkan, you're seeing the full thing, right? You're basically seeing the vertical version. And that's why it felt so weird, because the references for the hair are obviously taken from basically like the shoulders up, and then they added all the other hair to the bottom, right? So that kind of makes sense why it looks a little bit strange. Okay, I'm glad that curiosity was satiated, because I was going to say, something about it looks off, I'm not going to lie. The other thing I will say that is the only thing that's a bit of a shame, oh, I can't wait to talk about this, but the only thing that is a bit of a shame is that in the anime, that whole scene where the clouds are like flowing into Goku, they kind of keep that background here in the anime, right? Where obviously it's like they're all like zoomed into where he was standing, basically. And I know they kind of do that with like some of the lines that they have for when Goku first appears on the Dokkan version, but it's definitely not as like prominent as like how the clouds look. And even this scene is so iconic because in the background too, it like has the clouds still like kind of zoomed into Goku almost, right? Where they're basically like, you know, all like kind of focused in on him. Or in the Dokkan version, it's just, you know, a blue background for the sky. And I know that the reason that they do that is because the continuity wouldn't make as much sense, because obviously later in this animation, right, you have the shot of this, which is literally the whole thing with the clouds, right? So it makes sense that I guess that it's not there for the background, but it definitely makes it feel like it's a little bit less impactful or a little more empty. Again, maybe a little bit of a nitpick for sure, and I'm glad that they kept the continuity, if anything, but man, that makes so much sense why I feel like the bottom of that hair looks so weird, because it's genuinely like trimming me out a little bit. I was like, I do not remember that from the anime. Alright, next up on the list we have the super attack. I really like this. I actually really like this animation. I think that this part here is really cool. I do think that the movement, I did notice, like, I don't know, obviously we're watching it in slow time speed, so it looks a little bit more choppy. Let me see, when we look at this in full time speed, I think the only thing that like trips me out a little bit about this animation maybe is the beginning, because you're so zoomed in to Goku's face. Let's get to that, right? You have this like close-up, and then they immediately go back. I think I kind of wish there was one more frame in between this. Again, a little bit of a nitpick for sure, all right? But let's go back here. I don't know, it felt like the beginning of it, like the first little bit, feels a little bit like choppy to me almost, in the way that he kind of comes into the frame, if that makes sense, right? The then like later part though, where he then like is sort of squatting down, I think looks fine. And again, it is definitely a little bit of a nitpick, but I think overall it looks fantastic. And I gotta say, I love the shading, especially on this part. Dude, the shading in this scene is incredible. I really like this. Also, this pose is pretty cool. The electricity around him also looks great. Again, Dokkan's doing this thing once again where it's like a pseudo intro animation, where it's like they could have just started with the part of him flying in, but no, they have him squatting up, and then they cut to this part right here. So I think that is pretty cool that they have those animations like that. By the way, I know some of you are going to say it, so I have to point it out, right? Obviously, with this pose, you know, this is the OG, you know, STR, Super Saiyan 3 Goku pose, right? The iconic one in Dokkan, right? If you had old Dokkan head, you know that this guy was the man back in the day. Obviously, it's just because of the fact that they take, you know, poses from the anime, right? Like, you know, of course it's not like, oh, you know, they're referencing Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I mean, I guess by a technicality they are, right? But it's more like they're just referencing the scene from the anime, and obviously that's why it's the same pose. I mean, of course, you know, they have to reference the things that, you know, happen in the anime. I mean, that's like saying that the intro that we just watched was like copying the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, and like, again, obviously the whole thing is just, you know, it's just from the anime, right? They're just taking various scenes from the anime. Anyway, though, this shot looks fantastic. Again, the shading, oh my gosh, cooking, straight up cooking in the kitchen, baby. Looks so good. I love the aura. Obviously, they got the little halo, again, electricity. All of it looks on point, and once again, you have the hair flowing. For Super Saiyan 3, that's really important for the shots in motion, right? And I like all the different little things, all the different little pieces of his hair that they have moving. Not to mention, even his gi moves a little bit. If we go back to that shot there, right, let's watch him coming up. Again, also, too, this looks basically fluid throughout the entire thing in terms of the quality. Even with Goku being far away, the asset doesn't look that bad, right? And then when he gets zoomed in, it looks really good. I think that is also in part because they kind of blur him a little bit on purpose to obviously, you know, sort of keep the effect of, like, him moving fast. And then you can see, literally, it goes from blurred here to clear here, right? So it makes sense. And that looks so much better than a lot of the time what they do, where they have just, like, either the smaller asset get bigger and then it looks really ugly, or sometimes the smaller asset just looks a little bit uglier and then there's an awkward transition into the big one. This transition looks fantastic. But yeah, even like the pants and Goku's shirt moves, right? You can see it's very small, but it's there. If you look on the edges and obviously everything, right, it is there. That's the type of thing that I expect as a standard from these animations, right? From the, at least like the Dokkan Fests, right? And the LRs and stuff like that, right? Like free units, maybe not. Sidebanner units, maybe even not as much, but hey, Gotenks killed it. So, you know, maybe my boy is setting records out here. But when it comes down to it, right? this is what I expect as a standard for, you know, how good the quality of these animations should be in terms of like all the little things that they do, right? And it is so good to see this unit, you know, look this good, especially considering how disappointed I was personally about STR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. I think they absolutely fumbled the bag on that man so hard. And it's good to see that my boy's getting some redemption with this scene here. But obviously we have him teleport away. And by the way, I gotta point out the electricity effects, man. Oh gosh. And the way that they kind of disappear with him, right, where they have them sort of dissipate as he's obviously teleporting away, that is such a cool little effect and very anime-esque. Super Saiyan 3 is so cool, man. So obviously you then have Goku appear in front of Buu. Very solid kick, right? Definitely feels very impactful. And I like that obviously they have a little bit of follow-up on it, right? This is a perfect example of a great pose change that is rapid, right? You have Goku teleport in and he's basically just stanced up and then bam, right in the noggin, right? This right here is how you need to do these rapid pose changes, not the ones that look really awkward and choppy. This is perfect for showing the amount of impact that is on the character. By the way, Stinky Sprite moment with the way that the effect is, because obviously the hit effect would be behind Buu and not in front of him, but like, again, sprites. Anyway, though, I like that Goku has the follow-up there. You can see his leg obviously moving a little bit. They have a tiny bit of rotoscoping at the end there, which is really, really cool. It's very slight, but again, this is the type of thing where it adds so much to an animation. It makes it feel so much more impactful with that kick. It makes it feel so much more lifelike, right? This is a thing where they definitely could have just had Goku's PNG now be like this, but no, they chose to put a little bit more in there. You can see that they wanted to put a little bit more effort in it. That's the type of thing that your boy loves to see. You have Goku teleport away again, and then of course coming in for the punch, right, from the side, which looks pretty good. Nothing too crazy. It is a little bit of an awkward angle, I will say, because he's punching him down, and then like he doesn't actually move down, right? Obviously, he then kind of moves forward. We'll see about that in the comparison to the anime. But then, obviously, you have Buu close up. And I love, by the way, for this sequence of rapid-fire punches, they have electricity firing off on each fist. Are you kidding me? How cool is that? This shot looks awesome, and I will say, as much as it is Stinky Sprite that it is close up, they do a good job of the sprite's angles to make it really feel a lot more dynamic, right? Even though the sprite only has, like, you know, a couple different angles that it can go on, right? Obviously, they do a good job of, you know, making it feel a lot more like, you know, dynamic, I guess it's just the right word to use. I was trying to think of it if there was another better word to use. By the way, this I will say is a little bit weird. So I think that the like final punch is fine, right? Where you then have Goku come in from the back, right? This looks fine. This looks really cool. I like the way that the hair is angled here for the Super Saiyan 3. Obviously, like extended super long. But then I will say it is a little weird with the way that the camera like kind of flies away. Because obviously it's supposed to be like Goku still stands up in the sky. But then obviously Buu kind of flies away. But the way that they tilt Goku, I feel like looks a little bit strange. It's not anything crazy, right? But it definitely looks a little bit like off-putting, I feel like. But anyway, obviously Buu then flies away. You have these anime speed lines to kind of represent this, right? And then of course, oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh, so this is how they reference that shot of Goku looking at the camera, right? That obviously, funny enough, in the right here, right, in the 2019 one, it's so funny there was pause on that, right? Obviously, this shot where Goku's, you know, tilts his head to look at the enemy, and then they show the full body shot. That is really cool that they still snuck that reference in there in the super attack. Okay, Goku, okay, I see you, brother, I see you. That is really cool, right? And this is a pretty nice transition of assets, I will say. Even though it's just this quick one, I think this feels a lot more believable with Goku kind of like obviously just ducking his head down and with how close it is to the asset that's already there. And him looking to the side, yeah, I think that this is a pretty good pose change. Obviously, you then have Goku bring his hand up. Man, there's so many cool shots in here, dude. Obviously, with Goku turning around, this feels pretty fluid to me. I know it looks a little bit choppy in the slow-mo. This shot right here, by the way, looks really cool. But obviously, right, let's go back to that. Let's see that in full motion, because I'm curious to see how the turn looks. Yeah, it feels pretty fluid to me. Maybe the last little bit where they transition into like Goku fully stands up is a little bit like, I don't know, it looks a little bit like strange maybe with the full like turn, but I think overall it looks fine. By the way, again, absolute banger whenever Dokkan does this. It's always super cool to see. Whenever they transition directly from the, like, you know, pose that the character is in for the actual animation into the card art. Oh, fire. So cool. And I will say, it is awesome too with how zoomed in Goku is, the way that they introduce the card into the shot, right? They obviously have the white flash, but he's obviously a little bit zoomed in because that's just how the card arts work when they come in. But it fits a lot more, I feel like, because obviously in the previous shot, Goku was a little bit more zoomed in, and then obviously they kind of follow that pattern before then going to the card art, which is really, really cool. Definitely fire. Obviously, this is from that one Goku promo art. I'm sure we'll see it in Giad's video in about like 5 seconds. But yeah, very, very cool. I do like the art. I think the shading on it is really, really nice. This shot from the side, whoo! This shot right here reminds me so much of Buchigiri for some reason. I think it's just the shading. Reminds me a lot of some of the art from the game. But yeah, very, very cool. I love this shot a lot. Looks fantastic. The Super Saiyan 3 hair flapping in the wind looks awesome, right? We obviously then have the blast off-screen Goku is, which is kind of interesting. But I do like the way that the energy looks again. It feels a lot more like energy flowing, especially with how dynamic the like inner lines are, which is really cool. And not to mention, the actual beginning of the blast is so good looking, right? Again, very dynamic in the way that this looks before it actually explodes outward. And then, of course, for the end, you have this beautiful, dude, the display for the impact frames here is crazy. Actual, like, art on display here. Actual light show. So cool. And obviously that transitions into the enemy basically getting disintegrated by the blast. Super cool. I really, really like the super attack. I am so glad they included that little reference in there, bro. That's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. Hello, Boo Cameo again. All right, so let's watch the animation of the comparison between the anime. Yeah, so obviously they cut together a couple of scenes for some of it, right? But, oh, interesting. They actually included that shot from the manga. Holy cow, that goes by so quick. Okay, don't worry. We'll pause a little bit. So, obviously there's a ton of references in here that they kind of string together, right? So, unfortunate that this isn't on YouTube because obviously Twitter, there is no... is there? Oh my gosh! I didn't even know they added this. Well, sheesh. All right, let me give you the slow speed then. I don't know. I didn't know Twitter was chill like that, bro. All right, well, they learn something new every day. So obviously you have the shot of Goku getting stanced up, right, connected to the shot here. And obviously this is a shot where it like pauses, right? And this is, I believe, if memory serves, this is like what will happen on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, you know, type of thing, where obviously they then, you know, use it like as a cliffhanger type of thing. But obviously for this, you know, they have it as him teleporting away, which I think is a great way to kind of use that as a transition to then teleport into this scene, right? Or transition into this scene with the quick kick, right? And obviously then they have this scene, right? Where obviously Goku punches, and again, they kind of have the little pause there of Goku with the like red background, like the climactic, like, oh, I don't know if there's a scene where they have like the punches and then they're like transitioning into these like shots of the red background, or if this was just another like transition to either like a commercial break or the end of the episode. I don't quite remember, unfortunately, but either way though, yeah, obviously they do a very good job of stringing this stuff together for sure, with obviously taking all these different references and stuff. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they did... That is a little bit of a shame, because that was something that I actually did kind of want to see them do, where Goku, like, grabs Boo's head and is, like, hitting him like a yo-yo or, like, a paddle ball or something, basically, right? It is kind of unfortunate that they didn't do that, but funny enough, that actually leads into a good thing that I did want to mention, and something that is a little bit unfortunate about the sprites. It is kind of crazy, obviously, how far Dokkan has come in terms of their animations, right? Like, they have certainly come a long way since they were back in the day, and they look so good now, right? Obviously, they look so anime-esque, but even still, unfortunately, because of the limitations of the game, and especially those darn stinky sprites, there are still some animations that they can't do. Obviously, sometimes they work around it a little bit, excuse me, but this is a fantastic example of something that they literally just can't do because the game is too limiting, right? Even though they could have, like, I don't know, man, they could have had the sprite move back and forth. It would have looked really stupid, I'm not gonna lie. So I'm glad that they didn't include it from the perspective of it probably wouldn't have looked that good with Goku, you know, using Boo like a paddle ball, but man, I would have really liked that scene to be included, and it's just a shame because of the nature of the game, they can't include that scene. That's like a very specific instance where it's like just because of how the scene plays out, it can't be included in the game because it just straight up wouldn't work. At this point, there are very few scenes like that because obviously the game has come so far with the animations, like I just said, but there are still some, and I think that this is a good example of that. Anyway, you obviously have Goku come in and give the punch. Very cool little reference to the manga. I guess that makes sense. Why they had that little bit of like the weird transition of him kind of flying away, because obviously, I mean, not only is that angle the manga panel, but obviously he does it in the anime and it's like the slow-mo shot there. But again, nice little reference there, and they do a ton of references in this next little section where Goku is basically bringing his hand up to an attack. I like that this is a bit of a Dokkan original thing, and it still feels very fluid, right? So obviously you have that shot reference, you have this piece of promo. I believe this card is how do you pronounce it? I think it's literally card ass. I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce this. It's literally the word card and then that. So like, I don't know how else you want me to pronounce it, bro. That's what those cards are. Unless this is an old like Panini card. I don't remember what card series this is specifically from. One of those though. But either way, right? Obviously, very cool that they reference this old piece of card art, right? And then, right, obviously going into the transition, of course, I'm sure a lot of you probably recognize this when you watch this for the first time. Obviously, this is referencing that little piece of promo art there, which is really, really cool with all the boys stanced up. And Boo's face in the background of the card art is actually the other half of this promo art with all the Boos stanced up. And Boo go screaming his head off, bro. So funny, bro. But yeah, I'm glad that they included that because obviously that's a neat little reference right there for sure. But anyway, yeah, so obviously even more of a reference to it with the hair flapping in the background there, which is really, really cool. And then obviously the enemy getting blasted doesn't seem to be a reference to anything really, at least as far as Jihad can find. But very, very cool. I will say that they made that whole section with the key even so much better with those impact frames, man. I feel like those impact frames of like energy almost like pouring through Boo is really, really cool and adds a lot to the animation. So yeah, honestly, I really, really like the way that this is executed. And I think Dokkan did a very good job of, I like to talk about this in these videos where in essays where they string a bunch of stuff together, right, to make like one coherent thing. Lately, especially, they've been doing such a good job of making it feel like a fluid and coherent animation. I didn't even realize there was that many references. I knew there was a bunch of references packed into here, but I didn't realize there were that many things. And the animation feels like all one fluid fight. It doesn't feel like a bunch of references that they strung together when you're watching the actual animation. So very, very cool, Dokkan. Absolutely nailing it. You absolutely love to see it. So I'll skip ahead to here because obviously this is where we're going to actually be at next. But of course, Goku has a counter animation, so we're going to skip past Boo's animation and just start from the cut-in. The cut-in looks great with the angle, by the way, that they chose for Goku. But anyway, yeah, so obviously you have this flying up towards Goku. I love the background here. I forget what this is a reference to. Maybe, I think this is when they're on the Kai planet? I don't remember. Maybe it'll show in what Jihad is about to obviously have the comparison. But this animation also looks great, right? Obviously, Goku just smacking it away. It looks perfect, right? I don't think there's a single thing I can complain about. The transition, like, is perfect here, right? Obviously, they just cut to Goku up in the sky, right? The wind effects, the electricity, the fluidity of the movement, and the way that they hide him actually, like, you know, striking it by having it be the, like, perfect timing with the dynamic ki blast, right? With obviously the white light, and then it kind of hits in a way that you can see that's like, oh, this is where Goku smacked it, and the energy is basically contorting because obviously he smacked it away, and they have a little bit of follow-up. Like, it just looks so good. It's so fluid. Obviously, to follow it up, you have that little bit of like the kind of interesting choice there, the little bit of the ping. I feel like they didn't really need that. I feel like that makes this section look worse, honestly, because it feels so out of place to have that there for a couple of frames and then just disappear. Realistically, I think it should have just been the blast and Goku. But either way, I understand because it's obviously supposed to be like where you hit it. And then, of course, we fly down with the blast, which is a pretty cool transition. You can obviously tell that they kind of cut here. You know, obviously this like angle of it from the top, but I think it still works, and obviously your attention is still on the blast for the most part. It would have been cool if they would have just kept this on the screen and then had a little bit more of like the blast backing up into this rather than cutting, but hey, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Either way though, then obviously we have the enemy get crashed, and nothing crazy for the explosion, right? Just basically the enemy hitting the screen with some anime-esque lines. But yeah, looks pretty good overall. I really, again, like this animation of Goku hitting the ki blast is so good. Like, I don't know what it is, man. It's just like, it's really doing it for me. I'm like, whew, they cook so hard. It just looks really nice. And I think that face Let me get to that again. That one Goku face, I feel like I've seen this so many times before. Maybe it's just because it's like in a lot of Super Saiyan 3 clips that I see online. But anyway, yeah, obviously if we go back, yeah, of course, that's Vegeta's technique. Funny that they included that. But yeah, obviously, yeah, okay, so it is basically just referencing the background that is from that scene where they have like the green background there. Does it have that little puching effect on the actual anime one? I didn't notice. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, like basically 1-to-1 to the anime. Is it there? No, it's not there in the anime one. Huh, okay, well I guess they just added it for the Dokkan one then. Yeah, and obviously they made the Ki Blast yellow to make it a little bit more generic. Oh, interesting. It's also one of these animations where you could consider this one where a character normally in the actual like anime version of what the animation takes the reference from, they win the interaction in the Dokkan one, but in the actual anime they don't, because obviously Boo just kind of flings the blast back. But yeah, I think it's good that they made it yellow as well, because obviously, again, it just makes it a little bit more, like, encompassing for, you know, all the units in the game, because obviously, if, you know, you saw, like, Vegeta firing off a pink Ki Blast, it'll look a little bit weird, right? So, I think that is pretty cool. Obviously, a very good way to include that in there. Okay, let's now move on to the final animation, which is the active skill. So obviously this shot looks amazing. It is very like strange, but very cool to see Goku already in Super Saiyan 3, because obviously this is like when he's transforming, right? Let's actually just get the shot up on the screen. Yeah, because obviously he's still in Super Saiyan 2 in this scene when the clouds are coming in. So it is kind of surreal, honestly, seeing him be Super Saiyan 3 for this shot. But it does look really, really cool. And I'm glad that they included the clouds in some capacity. I would have definitely rather them been in the intro, but I think that, you know, it's good that they got them in here somehow, right? Still really cool with obviously the flashing and the electricity. I gotta say, man, on this shot, I don't know if this is something from the anime, what comes next. This obviously looks fantastic. This part right here, I need to see because it was tripping me up so much when I was watching this for the first time. I love the extra impact frames and electricity, by the way, on that. It works really well for like having this be an active skill rather than obviously just like elongated transformation. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's a reference to Kakarot in the way that he powers up like this. Okay. I was gonna say, like, this must be a Dokkan original thing, unless it's referencing another angle from something, because this looks completely new. And I gotta say, I love the shading on this part. The shading is so good looking, dude. Obviously, Goku squatting down looks great, and I love for the, like, actual power-up, they have this super solid impact frame here, where this pose change is perfect, because obviously they kind of have it masked by this impact frame here, you know, which is obviously supposed to be like he's whipping up super quickly. Yeah, Goku's face here looks so good, by the way. I don't know who they had on the animation team for this, but this entire sequence just looks awesome. The aura, Goku's, you know, like the effects on him, the little bit of like the outline of the yellow around Goku, right? Man, it just looks so good. This entire section is so good. They absolutely cooked with this part. I really, really like this. And then obviously we have the close-up of Goku's eye, which is really cool. I love the added electricity there. Obviously it makes sense because of course it's sparking around him. And, sparking zero. But I do like that for the part where he kind of squints, they have the electricity finish. I feel like that makes it feel more intense almost, that it's like, boom, his intensity is like breaking through the electricity almost. I think that's really cool. Okay, so obviously for this shot, right, I think this is fine, right? I know normally this might be something that I would actually like complain about. That's like, oh, this cut is weird. But I feel like this works well. Like the close up, and then it's like, all right, time to get into the action, right? And that's basically kind of how it feels. It feels very anime-esque in the way that it looks. So obviously you then have Goku powering up the Kamehameha. The shading looks fantastic. I love the lighting on the Kamehameha. The electricity looks really great. And I gotta say, bro, first of all, this blue section looks awesome, right? I really like the way that the energy is pouring out and the way that Goku's hair moves as well. I want to like just go frame by frame for this, because like these shots all look really good. I like too how they have the electricity kind of accent the way that the beams look. It's also interesting that the beams don't move until they start to zoom in. They don't have them like going crazy in the background, where sometimes in a lot of Dokkan animations they have them like moving around in a circle around the blast. I don't think that it's really a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of an interesting observation. But We then obviously have the Goku zoom in, right? And it's interesting to see how they did this, right? Obviously, they have this shot kind of persist for a minute before they then transition into this one, right? Which I actually really like this angle. I'm not going to hold you. Very, very cool. And the electricity, again, throughout looks really good. This is a little bit of a jump cut from here to here for sure. But I think it's not too bad. I don't know. Honestly, when I was looking at this section of the animation, like this whole part where it's like the, you know, flowing into the Kamehameha of him actually firing it, I can't decide if I think, like, it's enough fluidity or if there should be a couple more frames there. Maybe that's a good thing that I can't decide that. But I feel like there should be maybe, like, a little bit more in between. But what's there, I think, looks so much better than a lot of Kamehamehas in the game. It certainly looks better than the SGR one. Anyway, sorry, we do a little bit of trolling. But regardless, though, this shot is really cool. This reminds me of an art from something. It has to be from the anime, but I will say I love the way that the Kamehameha blasts are like twisted, because obviously he's turning his body, so it's almost like they're, you know, kind of twisting with him and almost like flowing in the wind, I guess is kind of the best way to describe it, or just like the energy is twisting with the way that Goku is kind of pulling it. But I love the way that it sort of accents Goku's face here. I think that's really, really cool. But yeah, you then transition this one, though. I'll say, yeah, this one probably needs a frame in between here or here. This kind of looks like a little bit silly, to be honest. But again, sometimes Super Saiyan 3 can look a little bit weird, especially without the eyebrows, right? But then this is a pretty cool transition, I will say. You know, they cut realistically, but they pan, quote-unquote, down Goku's body to obviously having a ki blast in his hand, which does look really good. And obviously the lighting looks fantastic. And I like the way that they execute this as well, with obviously the blue light sort of taking over Goku and the screen, right? As they then transition into the shot of him being full blue. Abu Di Abu Dai. But very, very cool. I like the way that this looks. It looks super cool. Again, this kind of reminds me of Buchigiri art, because I swear there was like some cards in Buchigiri where they had the character like fully engrossed or encased. I don't know what the right word for this would be, but like basically the light from their ki blast was covering them up, and then they were a different, you know, complete color like blue in this section. But yeah, obviously you have a very cool impact frame here with the blast actually firing off. I like that they included this rather than just cutting to behind Goku here, right? Obviously, this is a pretty cool shot of the blast firing forward, because then they transition it into Goku, obviously firing off the blast with some very cool electricity, some very, very nice looking shading on Goku as well. And I like the little circles that they have around the blast, as well as the lines to accent the speed, right? And then they cut to this shot where it hits into the enemy, right? I like the little bit of the that they have kind of coming off of it. The enemy obviously getting engrossed in it, right? Taking all of the energy. And this shot is so good, dude. Like, when I saw this, I freaked out. I was like, yo, it's like they made that OG shot of the ki blast firing off the planet in Dokkan, right? Like that classic one when they do those Kamehamehas, and it's like the really old, just like circle that is the planet, right? The PNG, and then the, you know, like line that is the ki blast firing off behind the planet. It's like they literally took that and modernized it in the way that this looks. And the reason why this looks so good, by the way, is because if we come over here, and we'll look at the full thing in a second, but this is actually from Kakarot, where the ki blast fires off of the planet, and then they have this section from, you know, there. That is what this is from, as you can see, the super finish. So no wonder that it looks so good, because obviously they took it from the game, and that's how like the kind of style looks. But I swear it looks like a movie, bro. Like that end part, I'm like, whoa, did we just start watching a Dragon Ball movie, man? Very, very cool. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at that full comparison there for the super attack, the active skill animation rather. So obviously, again, the clouds, right? Very, very cool. Definitely like that they included that. I think that the impact frames and the extra electricity work for the active skill for what it is for Dokkan. I feel like especially with how long they had it on screen, right? Because obviously, it's funny. It seems like they didn't want to include the longevity of the whole scene in the intro, but then for some reason, they're comfortable with having this shot on screen for like so long, like way too long almost. So it's good that they added a little bit of something extra with the impact frames and the electricity and the aura like flaring up to make it a little bit more, you know, like, even though I love this scene and I would just watch this forever even without it, right? Obviously, you know, Subway Surfer's brain, modern day, you know, I think that that type of thing is helpful to keep the engagement there. But anyway, yeah, again, very cool that they referenced Kakarot for this. I like that they took it from a different angle as well and didn't just do the same thing. And I think it fits a lot more for the angle of what follows and what preceded this shot of the like clouds. I think that this angle works a lot better than the angle that Kakarot did for the Dokkan animation specifically. I mean, obviously the Kakarot animation is fine in its own right. But yeah, obviously this shot, very cool reference. I like that they cut the eye as well, by the way, because they definitely could have just like had the face close up, and I wouldn't have minded that either, but I think obviously because Dokkan is a vertical game and they already kind of had the similar-ish shot, right? Like it's not exactly the same, obviously, but the shot in the beginning where Goku's like this, right? Obviously, it's definitely not completely the same, but it is just another close-up, right? So I think it's cool that they made it a little bit more dynamic by having the eye, and I guess that's also easier on the animators, huh? To be fair. But anyway, yeah, very cool reference with obviously that shot of Goku leaning his head down. And of course, right, again, a little bit of that fighter shenanigans going on here with the angle and the way that Goku turns, right? But then obviously they link that into the shot of him actually firing the blast, which again, another instance of where it feels a little bit different because obviously, you know, you have the horizontal aspect ratio for the anime and then you have the vertical one for Dokkan. But yeah, obviously the shot from the back, a little bit more of a different angle for the Dokkan one. And again, I think a little bit of a better angle for the vertical, obviously firing up rather than sideways. Again, unfortunately, you'll never get this perfect shot where Boo gets blasted because, of course, it's Stinky Sprite moment. But we then obviously transition after this into this beautiful shot from Kakarot. It looks so good. It looks so good, man. I was like shocked when I saw this. I was like, dude, this looks awesome. And obviously they didn't change it to be blue because, of course, you know, Kamehameha. But yeah, that is Goku's animations. I think overall, they did a fantastic job with this guy, right? There's so much cool stuff in here. The animation is very, very fluid, I would say. I think overall, again, this is another instance, just like I was talking about in the Ginyu Force video, where obviously the intro could be longer, but again, I think what's there for the intro is fine and it looks good. This is another unit where it's like it feels like a lot more of a complete package and there's a lot more really good animations at play rather than just, oh yeah, it's clear that they focused on one animation making it super crazy and that's it, right? I think that all of these animations are really high quality. They all look really, really nice, right? Again, the actual animation, right, the way that they're animated looks really good as well, obviously, right? I don't think that there's a single thing that like would make me go ew, because even if there's sometimes instances where I like nitpick little things or little things are like a little bit choppy maybe, or there's some things that I'm like, hey, yeah, maybe they could have done this a different way. Obviously, that is a lot different from me going like, yeah, this is straight up bad, which is absolutely not the case with this guy. There's not a single thing in here that I would say is just straight up bad. And it is really cool. Again, all of the different references that they crammed into this guy. It was really nice to see all the different poses and the promo art and stuff like that. It's really cool to see that Dokkan has been taking a lot more references from that type of thing for the super attacks themselves, because obviously they've kind of done that for certain assets and like, you know, card art and stuff like that in the past, but I feel like they haven't done it as frequently as they have in recent time for these. But hey, I guess that is a good way to get more out of these characters, right? Obviously, with a game that's almost 10 years old now and selling the what, like, you know, 7th Super Saiyan 3 unit or something like that, right? Obviously, they have to find a way to make these animations a little bit more unique, right? And obviously not just have it be the same thing over and over and over again. So I think taking references from the promo art is a great way to do that. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm giving this one the Dokkan Assets seal of approval. Man, I don't know what happened, but since the Ginyu Force came out, I feel like we've been cooking, man. Because it's like, the beginning of the year was obviously really, really good, right? I love the anniversary animations, right? I think that they are very, very good. I still think that Broly still has the #1 spot for me. Like, I don't even think it's a contest. I'm hoping that he'll be contested in some form this year, but I think it's just like, obviously there have been some misses, right, so far this year for sure, and it was worrying me a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like ever since, I mean, it is only 3 units, I guess, now with Boo, Goku, and Ginyu, but maybe it's just because it happens to be Golden Week right after a really good Yellow Coin LR, but I hope that they just keep this consistency of quality. This is the type of thing that I really, really like to see, because I know people say all the time, like, oh, you know, you're too hard on the animations, or you know, like, are, you know, critiquing them, or, oh, they look fine. It's like, well, yeah, but they could look better. And it's like, even if something could look better, I just want it to at least look good and have that standard of quality. And I think this guy definitely nails that. So does Boo. Obviously, we'll talk about him in his own video. But yeah, dude, I love this, man. I'm so excited to summer for this guy. I'm really, really happy that this guy turned out so well. And obviously, this is such an iconic scene in Dragon Ball history that I was really, really hoping that they were going to do my boy good. And yeah, they cooked. They absolutely cooked. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. Let me know your thoughts on this guy's animations in the comment section below. Obviously, links to all the stuff that we took a look at in today's video will be in the description below. And with all that being said, I will catch you in the next one. Dokkan Assets out. Peace.